taking those from nobody.
Your superstars have off games.
Follow us on social media at the Celtics Talk Weekly.
Welcome into Celtics Postgame Live, everybody. I'm your host, Justin Lowe. Alongside with me, I have my co-host, Robbie Haytain, along with my other co-host, Seamus Starlingo, a.k.a. Celtics Every Day. And the Boston Celtics are racking up wins every day. 124-104, a road blowout victory over the Denver Nuggets. This is Boston's third straight victory. They improved to 44-28 on the regular season. They improved to 3-0 on this West Coast road trip. Their final game is tomorrow night, Monday night, against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Rob, we'll start with you. The Boston Celtics are rolling, and I mean rocking and rolling. They absolutely rocked the Denver Nuggets tonight. We saw a little late run, but other than that late run in that third to fourth quarter, the Celtics dominated.
Yeah, I mean, we're watching the best team in the NBA. At this point in time, at this moment, 10 games left in the regular season, the Boston Celtics have kind of solidified that. Manhandling not only the Denver Nuggets tonight, but also the Golden State Warriors on this road trip, and the Brooklyn Nets, and the Memphis Grizzlies. So the Boston Celtics are continuing to make a statement, and it was just all Celtics tonight. I mean, Jaylen Brown, 30 points. Jason Tatum, 30 points. How about Peyton Pritchard? Right? I mean, he has been on fire, shooting the best three-point percentage in the Eastern Conference since the All-Star break. He has been absolutely the difference maker for the Celtics. 17 points off the bench for Peyton Pritchard, 13 for Grant Williams. I mean, an overall dominating performance for the Boston Celtics. We held Nikola Jokic, the former reigning MVP, to 8 for 23 shooting, 2 of 6 from beyond the arc, and a minus 21 plus-minus. It was all Celtics in Denver tonight.
I don't think I've ever seen a team have this many statement games in a season, whether it's for good or for bad, because earlier in the season, all of the games were, oh my, look at the Celtics here. Oh, is me. Look at the world is falling down on the Celtics. Now, every single game, we're going out there and proving something. Well, I shouldn't say we, but the Celtics themselves are going out there and they're a contending team in the NBA. At this point, it just has to be acknowledged that the Celtics might just be clear-cut title contenders to the point of we might be either the first or second team in the East that people talk about going into the playoffs, because tonight's game, like Rob mentioned, was just an extension of all the games we've seen recently against the Atlanta Hawks, against the Memphis Grizzlies, against the Brooklyn Nets, and then on this last road trip here against the Golden State Warriors, and even that Nuggets game. That game came down to the wire, and that could have gone either way. So each one of these games, the Celtics are just proving themselves over and over and over again, and the trend is the same every single night. It's stifling defense, it's guys making shots consistently, and it's the team collectively closing out games in the end that has changed the entire complexity of this team, and it's every single night now that we're coming in. We talked about it at the beginning of the season. Oh, yeah, we're talking about rebounding every game. We're talking about them getting off to a fast start, closing out games. We're talking about that. Now, all of a sudden, it's each and every game. This team is playing not so much perfectly, because it's really hard to play perfectly in basketball in general, but up to the standards of perfect, near perfect, the Celtics are hitting that every single night, and it's a joy to watch.
And Jaylen Brown was unbelievable tonight. Jason Tatum was also unbelievable, but before we get to those two, I want to talk about Grant Williams, because that was somebody who I thought set a tone early on off the bench, Seamus. He had to come in a little bit earlier with Rob getting into foul trouble. Celtics had to play small ball. I thought he defended Jokic really well. He had that stifling block on the baseline. Grant did, and he played great defense overall. I think him getting to the basket as well from the perimeter has improved drastically. Seamus, what did you see from Grant Williams tonight that stuck out to you?
Well, for me, Grant Williams, is he making the most of his opportunity? That is always the thing that I look at with Grant Williams. And also, the defensive side of the ball with Grant Williams is going to be his bread and butter every single time. If Grant Williams is coming into a game, and say like last year, he's getting beat off the dribble, he's getting beat down the block, he's not being physical with guys, that's going to land him on the bench. But this season, we saw him come into this season in shape. He's a better positional defender. And tonight as well, he's able to slot into that role and make different lineups, create different lineups for the Celtics. Like you saw tonight when Denver, they play a little bit smaller. They only have two big guys, Cousins and Jokic up at the top. Their other big guy, Zeke Nnaji, is injured right now. And the Celtics, they went a little bit smaller with Denver, and Grant Williams can slot into that role and play a huge role, not only on the offensive end of the floor when he's making shots, but defensively when he can match up with these other guys and play at another level, even though he's a smaller guy compared to some of these other big guys that other teams have around the league. And Grant Williams, on offense, we talked about it. He's making the most of his opportunities this year, and that is what's landing him on the floor along with his defense. And tonight, that was much the same from Grant Williams.
Rob, how about yourself? Because I talked to you before the not before the game, in that first half, and if Jaylen Brown didn't go off in that second half the way he did, I told you Grant Williams was going to be our player spotlight tonight. So he's definitely worth mentioning. I mean, this is a guy, again, the time rookie year, phenomenal rookie year. Then sophomore slump hit. We questioned if this guy was going to be even on the team, on the roster past Summer League. He didn't show up to Summer League. We got his excuses. We sat here in the preseason and said, well, let's see how this goes.
Yeah.
Then, since opening night, he's been unbelievable in backing up every reason why he didn't go to Summer League. On the West Coast trip, blocking the MVP Jokic. That's unbelievable.
I think Seamus said it best. I think the best thing about Grant is his ability to kind of keep the lineups we put out there versatile, whether he's running the 3, 4, or 5. He opens up a lot of opportunity for the Celtics. And also he's been shooting the ball phenomenally all season long. 4th best in the NBA. He's also been recently, I've noticed he's been, getting a little pump fake and drive. Now that teams are kind of starting to read in on his, phenomenal shooting, they're starting to, try to close out through a jump, but he's making them pay off that little pump fake. He's got a nice little rip through and drive that makes the defense collapse. And we saw it tonight. DeMarcus Cousins didn't help on the sideline, on baseline side help. And he made him pay, threw it down on a nice little Grant Williams style 2-hand jam, which you always love to see. But he's been phenomenal. Him and Pritchard too. Pritchard recently off the bench has been a key factor, especially with Derek White having this little slump offensively he's been going through. So we can't stress enough, I think, how amazing those two have been.
As Ian Angelo joins us, welcome, Ian. We're just getting our initial thoughts on the game. We're going to get to player spotlight in a second, but first, welcome, Ian. What did you think of this game? Another classic Celtics blowout on the road.
I mean, damn, it's almost like we're running out of things to talk about again. We had a beginning of the year where, we had nothing to talk about because the team was going nowhere, and now this team is just playing great.
Right.
I will say that second quarter was probably some of the best basketball I've ever watched.
Yeah.
Best basketball of the season.
That second quarter was amazing. Like, they shot the lights out. It was so much fun to watch. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown finished with 30 points. Both of them in back-to-back games. I mean, it was overall just an amazing game. The Celtics played so well. They ran into some trouble, but, it felt like they were in trouble, but at the same time, on the scoreboard, it didn't really look like they were in trouble. But, I mean, they figured it out. They toughed it out, and overall, it was just a great game. The Celtics are playing insane basketball right now.
I'm glad you mentioned that because this is the second time on this road trip where we saw this kind of late third quarter, early fourth quarter eruption by the home team. The Warriors did it. Jordan Poole caught on fire. And then tonight, obviously, Denver cut into that 24-point margin. But I think the Celtics overall handled themselves very well, and they didn't fully let themselves collapse. And I think that's a huge progression. As Seamus mentioned before, building blocks, right? I think the building blocks are over with. I think we've built ourselves a very nice, sturdy tower. And the Celtics are contenders. They're not pretenders. They are contenders. The teams that the Celtics have beat are contenders. We've seen the Denver Nuggets. We've seen the Golden State Warriors. Luckily, unfortunately, they didn't have Steph Curry in the second half. But either way, even when Curry was playing, the Celtics locked them up. The teams we're beating, we beat Brooklyn last week, nearly beat Luka last week as well. The Celtics are not pretenders at all. And I think it's time we start seeing these guys as finals contenders, not just Eastern Conference contenders, but finals contenders. And some people think that's such a bold take, but with the way they're playing, I think their offense needs a little bit more consistency for sure, but defensively it's there. The Celtics are rocking and rolling right now. And, Jaylen Brown's rocking and rolling too. As you mentioned, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum back-to-back 30-plus point games. That Celtics all-time are 10-0 when Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum hold 30 points each. He racks home his 12th Player Spotlight Award of the season. As we take a look at the Player Spotlight leaderboard, Jason Tatum leads the way with 17, but Jaylen Brown closing in on him, only 5 away. Celtics have about 10 games. He could say he makes a run, insane run, and he overtakes Jason Tatum. But for tonight, he gets his 12th Player Spotlight of the game. Let's take a look at this West Coast road trip so far. The Celtics are 3-0 with a 110-88 blowout win over the Warriors, a 126-97 blowout win over the Kings, a 124-104 blowout win over the Nuggets. And then tomorrow night, the Oklahoma City Thunder awaits the Boston Celtics, the red hot Boston Celtics, who each team are coming off of the second night of a back-to-back. 8 p.m. tip-off. We will have you covered for Celtics Postgame Live. Rob, is there any updates on that Toronto and Philly game?
Yeah, so Toronto leading Philly, 85-84, 4:31 to play. If Toronto can close this game out, Boston will advance to the 3 seed. And if they can close out the game tomorrow night in Oklahoma, the Celtics will advance to the 2 seed over the Milwaukee Bucks. They hold tiebreakers over Milwaukee. They hold tiebreakers actually against every team in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
Philly, it comes down to other analytics, but we do hold the tiebreaker over them. We are split the season series there. So, all signs pointing towards up for the Celtics. And something I do just want to mention here, guys, is if you look at the way we've been winning these past couple games, it's the same exact score, right? 110 to 88, 126 to 97, 124 to 104. And these teams, if you look at them, so we beat the Kings in the exact same fashion we beat the Nuggets and the Warriors. Right. So it kind of feels like it doesn't matter who's on the other side of the court, who's on the right, whoever the other guys running the other 5 boys on the court. The Celtics are going to play their style of basketball, how they want to play, and they're going to get exactly what they want when they want it. And I think that is a huge progression in what you see out of a championship team. When you see a championship team playing the regular season, look at the Phoenix Suns, the Milwaukee Bucks last year. They get what they want, just no matter who they face. And I do really think the Boston Celtics are having a historic turnaround. If they can make a playoff run, I really do think this is something you talk about. I mean, 11 seed to the Eastern Conference Finals, or even to the 2 seed, like that just doesn't happen.
Right. Hey, they called me a madman when I said the Celtics could be a top 3 seed in the East at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, our mocks we had. I had them in the top 3.
I had them in the 3 seed at the start of the year.
I think I had them 4.
I had them 2.
Yeah, I think I had them right behind Miami.
I had them 3.
Yeah.
But somebody.
It's actually going to happen now. All of our friends, we'd promptly be asking for apologies from everybody else in the NBA right now.
Because combined, we averaged top 4.
We all had them near the top 4 of the East, and at one point it looked like we were in the 12th spot at one point. We've been single emotion this year. We've been through, we're just mediocre, to, oh my Lord, we're a legitimate bad team, to, oh, we're mediocre again, or oh, we're okay playoff team. We might make some noise too. We are the team in the NBA now. Right. And so, the rest of the league, we deserve some praise here for this turnaround. I jumped off the train in December, like 90% of Celtics.
Well, building blocks fell.
Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if you see some teams start dodging that Celtics first round matchup. I mean, you could see a team like Philly and Milwaukee, or Chicago, who's that 5 seed. If we're at the 4 seed, you might try to see them slip down that 6 and match up against Milwaukee. You never know. With the way the Celtics have playing, they're playing the best basketball in the NBA, hands down, no question. It's not even really close. They're blowing out opponents essentially every night, no matter who it is. I mean, we blew out Phoenix December 31st, no Jason Tatum. That was kind of the start of this whole thing. And then fast forward 2.5, 3 months, 10 games left of the NBA season. the Boston Celtics are the best team in the NBA. And if I'm the Eastern Conference, I mean, the Celtics got hot at the exact right time. It started right end of February or mid-February. No, I'm sorry, end of January into February, and then it's just taken off into March. And I think we can all agree we had this little fear in the back of our minds coming out of All-Star break. You saw some matchups who we had. We had Brooklyn at full strength. We had Dallas. We had Golden State. We had Memphis. We had Atlanta, who gives us tough times. And guess what? Every team I just mentioned, we had one against.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the rest of the schedule, and I don't see there's a single team that I think can beat us.
As long as the Utah Jazz don't hit like 35 threes
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Because that was awful. The Celtics actually
what's-
played decent that game. They
you
just
know
hit
what's
every damn three.
Kind of crazy that we're not talking about, guys, which I want to hear everyone's opinion on this. The Celtics, at one point of the season, 7 games under 500 on the road. Now they're the best road team in the NBA. They're 4 games over 500 record-wise. They're not. Point differential, though, over the last 2-3 months, they have been dominant on the road more so than at home.
Yeah.
I can't
I
wait.
think we
till
need
the
to have
end of
like
the
a
year where we
4-hour
make-
show on. I think we need to just dissect the whole season on a 4-hour show after the regular season is over, because that is how insane the season from game to game. Like, I don't know. Go ahead, Ian. Go ahead.
Yes. Well, no, I was just gonna say we have to make a montage of our clips early in the season and then now, because just like having to go through every single emotion to right now. I mean, granted, we're not the worst franchise in the NBA. We haven't played the worst
close.
basketball in the NBA over the last decade. We could be the Kings, we could be the Magic, we could be the Pistons. But the last year
The
and
Knicks,
a half,
don't forget
has
about
been
the Knicks.
The Knicks,
The Lakers. Don't forget about the Lakers.
Lakers. I mean, the last year and a half watching the Celtics play basketball
Was
was
Yeah.
rough. It was damn near torture at points.
Well, I think
It
the
was
frustrating part
bad.
was that last season we were just a bad basketball team. We were just didn't have the strength in the roster. Kemba was, all respect, I love Kemba, but was just washed up. Was not a starting point guard in the NBA. This season, right? Halfway through, we were winning the games. We were up by 24 against Chicago, and we were doing so well. You saw flashes of how good this team could be, and then they were just couldn't finish it out. And I was talking to my dad the other night, right? Because, both big Celtics guys. He was telling me, can you imagine if we had closed out just 5 of those
We'd be
blown
the
leads
best
this
team
season?
in the league.
Could you imagine? Or we could just finish the business. If we got it clicking a little bit earlier, we would probably be a 60-win basketball club. Right around there, we'd probably have right around 7 more wins. That puts us at 50 in 21 with 10 games left. So we're looking at what? A 56, 57 win basketball team.
Yeah.
We'd be the best team in the league if we didn't blow any of those games early in the year. We would 100% be the best team in the NBA.
But I do think, so Seamus, I have a question for you. Do you think that maybe the Celtics struggling early on could actually benefit us in the long run? Because we've seen it all this year.
Going early on, as in early on in the season?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Early on in the season?
Well, both. I mean, we
Both.
struggled everywhere in games,
Both.
but early on in the season. For the first half of the season, it was pretty rough.
I think this whole stretch from early on in the season all the way back to the beginning of last season is beneficial to Celtics, and specifically speaking on the roster, the top guys, Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, because now they've been through periods of success, whether it was with Isaiah Thomas, whether it was with Al Horford, the first time we had Al Horford, that period of time where they had success and we made it to the conference finals many times. Yet period of time showed you how bad it can be, and even as just a 500 team, right? And to just project from then to now, you just see the growth in the team, not only as they grow their identity, but as they enjoy playing. They enjoy these games now. They're a team. They're a cohesive unit that goes out there every day to win. Whereas during that period of time from 2020, December of 2020 to basically January of this year, that period of time, that was just a dead period in basketball. No one was paying attention. Jason Tatum was being scared. Jaylen Brown was being scared. People were talking about breaking up. We were talking trading Marcus Smart potentially. And we were talking about all these negative things. Can these guys, can they get it done together? And yet now, this is a unit that is never going to break up in the near future if they continue to play. And they want to continue to play for the fact of this is fun. This is fun level of basketball. So that early part of the season, yes, it's going to be at the end of the year when, say, we end up with the second or third or fourth seed at the end of the year and go, man, if we just pulled out a game or we just pulled out that Knicks game or just won against the Timberwolves or the Clippers, either time against the Clippers, we could have the number 1 seed or the number 2 seed. But just looking at that period, every moment of failure can inspire a moment of success, right? Or can lead and learn or teach a person to guide them to a moment of success. We were better in the beginning of the season. Maybe right now, maybe the team is a little sluggish right now. Maybe they're not as locked in right now. Now, we've been together now since the trade deadline as this specific unit with Derek Out, Dennis Schroeder, and Josh Richardson. We've been together now for 2.5 months or two months about. A month and a half, really. 6 weeks.
Month and a half.
And so they're more locked in. They're more engaged into what they're doing now. And say if this team was together for the whole season and they're just putting together the pieces and who knows how they would turn out. We've seen these other teams. Some of these teams, they lose steam down the stretch. You looked at Utah last year, dominant throughout the season. But in the playoffs, they just ran out of gas. So from that aspect, and also just the teaching and the experience aspect, I think earlier on in the season, it's beneficial philosophically, but not much record-wise, obviously.
Yeah. Breaking news, Joel Embiid turned the ball over with 37 seconds left, and Gary Trent stole it, and now the 76ers are challenging. So right now, the Raptors have a chance to ice the game.
So I have a question, though. So right now, seeding, right, assuming we go in and take care of business tomorrow night in Oklahoma. Yeah, we're the 2 seed here. We now would play the winner of the 7-8 matchup, which would most likely be Toronto versus Brooklyn, right? Brooklyn would play in Toronto. Brooklyn will be without Kyrie Irving for all playing games, no matter what the scenario is. They don't have Kyrie Irving. Do the Celtics want to be that 2 seed? I mean, do we want to see Brooklyn? Do we feel confident enough with part-time Kyrie Irving? Or would we rather fall, maybe just say, hang in that 3 spot, take on the Cavs, don't have to worry about potentially Brooklyn getting hot at the right time? I know they've been pretty bad down the stretch recently. It's really tough to get a groove when your second-best player is out every other game. Right? Do we want that? Is that 2 seed really worth it? Or should we just, mind you, 2 seed, you get home court advantage, you take care of business next round, which is also really big.
Right.
Or
and
are we okay with that 3 seed?
Ways.
Right. And I want to mention, go ahead.
Right, this argument goes both ways. I'll to Justin in a second, but one perspective of this is, you can Nets right out of the way quick. You don't have to worry about health later on down the line. We always talk about the Celtics, can they stay healthy? And that's been over the last month and a half. And nice to say, Nets in the first round when your squad is 100% healthy and not gassed from 2 series before or a series before. Yet there's another perspective of, say you face the Nets and then you found, say, the Sixers or the Bucks, and then in the conference finals you face the Heat. That's going to be a grueling gauntlet of a stretch there for the Celtics to potentially get to the finals. And I don't know. I think you'd rather in the first round in that regard, where they're banged up, no Collins, no Jared Allen. You don't really know how they're going to respond to Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, first time in the play. They're facing a veteran squad in the Celtics if that were to happen. And I like that matchup more. But there is an argument where if you catch Brooklyn early, it'd be your better stance against them.
Yeah, opposed to letting them get hot.
Right.
Yeah, I also want to mention, like, Scal said something really good as well. And say Brooklyn does have Kyrie, and say they do have Ben Simmons. That's the best case scenario for them. Say the Celtics do pull out that first game, or that first series rather. I have a pretty good feeling that whether Ben Simmons plays or not, that's going to be a 6 to 7 game series. Even if Boston does win that series, right? Say Milwaukee stays playing a team like the Cavaliers, where on top of their lack of playoff experience, they have guys like Seamus said, Colin Sexton out, Jarrett Allen out. We don't know the availability of a Rondo or a Kevin Love. Those two seem to be kind of showing their age as of late this season, in and out of the lineup with injuries. So that'll be interesting as well. The Celtics go 6 to 7 games with the Brooklyn Nets. Then the next round, they're facing the defending champs potentially in a 6 to 7 game series where they might have a week off of rest because they just took out the Cavaliers in either 4 or 5. So that's something to look out for as well.
Yeah,
I
agree.
I mean, if I'm the Celtics, I mean, personally, as a fan, I think I would like them to stay in the 3 seed. I think because you have home court advantage, you play a lower seed, you'll play Cleveland or maybe Toronto or maybe Chicago, no matter however that shakes out. As a fan, that's what you want, but as a team, I think you just want to win as many games as possible, while resting some guys. Like, coming down the stretch, I guess it depends on what Ime Udoka wants to do when it comes to resting guys. Like, do they want to give Tatum and Brown some days off in between, or are you just wanting to play them straight through until the end? So,
right.
I mean, as a fan perspective, I'd like to see them in the 3 seed. That's kind of what I want to see. But if it doesn't happen and we just continue to win and we end up in the 2 seed or maybe the 1 seed somehow,
the 1
I guess I
seed's
can't
not
be
out of the
mad at
question.
that. So,
Yeah, well,
even if we're the 1 seed, I mean,
so it looks like Toronto's going to
worse.
get this win. So the Celtics are the 3 seed, bearing any crazy endings, some March Madness type NBA endings. However, though, guys, that means tomorrow night the Bulls and the Raptors will face off for the play-in spot. So if the Bulls lose, the Bulls are now in the play-in spot. So, really between Chicago, Cleveland, or Toronto, those 3 teams, that we're looking like that's going to be a Celtics first-round matchup. And I feel pretty confident with all 3 of those teams, unless Chicago can get healthy.
Right.
Scotty Barnes missed the first free throw. Oh, no.
Right. And I agree. I 100% agree. Those are my 3 targets. If I were to target in the first round, I think my number 1 would for sure be the Cleveland Cavaliers. No disrespect to them. They've had one hell of a season, especially, Rookie of the Year candidate. Evan Mobley's been insane. Jarrett Allen, when he is healthy, he's been insane. On Darius Garland as well. Unfortunately, Colin Sexton couldn't get going this season. He got injured. But I'd rather.
Oh my God,
He
he
missed
missed
them both.
They're up
missed
4
both.
though.
No, they're up by 2. It's 90-88.
Oh, well,
I may have jinxed the Raptors.
Thanks, Rob.
Well, I'd really rather play the Cavs out of those 3. Like I said, on top of their lack of experience, they're injured, they're injury riddled. So, Toronto, that's going to be a tough, gritty team. I feel like a Toronto might be tougher than an injured up, banged up. What's it called? An injured, banged up Chicago Bulls, maybe. That might infuriate
if Embiid
Bulls
hits like a
fans.
crazy game-winning 3 or something, I'm gonna be so pissed.
Well, I would like to point this out about the Sixers here. Are we even worried about the Sixers at this point? Are we even worried about James Harden and Joel Embiid against this particular Celtics? I think we can run them off the floor.
I think we could beat them, but I don't want to sit through a 7-game series against the 76ers because, yes, Embiid and Harden, they're dominant, but outside of those two, say one of those two goes out with an injury, they are absolutely toast.
Well,
I'm sure we can all agree. And then I don't want to sit through 50 free throws in the first freaking quarter every single 7 straight games. I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that.
I think in the playoffs, though, something got to factor in as a basketball team is which team is going to really wear you down for the long run. And I think a series against the Sixers isn't physically tiring
Harden
for the
got a
Celtics.
charge. Let's
So that's
go.
a win. Offensive foul. So I don't think that's I think Philly isn't a necessarily physical team. They're a team that doesn't really want to, body up. They're a team that would rather get on the line than, go through contact. And I think that through a 7-game series, that's a little bit better in the long run, opposed to a team like Toronto who physically will match your energy and, really give you a tough time. And that can hurt you longer down in the road, like we saw in the 2020 bubble.
Right.
Yeah, a series with Embiid and Harden is going to be rough, especially for the Celtics. Like, I'm not going to say, like, the Celtics are going to outmatch the Sixers because, I mean, you never know. Both Embiid and Harden could go off and be insane in the series. But, I mean, if we face the Sixers somehow, I guess I'm not. I think the Celtics have a chance of winning. I really don't want to see them in the first round. But if we do have to end up playing them in the second round, then I guess that's just what's going to have to happen, I guess. But for now, I'd much rather avoid the Sixers as much as possible because, like you said, Justin, I don't want to watch 50 free throws being taken a game and having Tyson, Rob, and Grant foul out by the third quarter. So
Right. Well, that's a very good point. Let's take one last look at tonight's final box score. The Boston Celtics defeat the Denver Nuggets 124-104 on the road. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown combined for 60 points for the second straight game. Peyton Pritchard, 17 off the bench. Nikola Jokic, last year's MVP, potentially this year's MVP. Well, he struggled tonight from the floor, 8 of 23, shooting 23 points. And the Celtics sweep the Denver Nuggets. For the season series, the Celtics improved to 44-28 with the Philadelphia loss tonight. The Boston Celtics overtake that 3 seed via the tiebreaker. That concludes tonight's coverage for Celtics Postgame Live. But we have one more special announcement before we go. I'm going to bring in Celtics Talk Weekly David, CTW David. David, welcome, David. If you don't know, runs our Twitter over at Celtics Talk Weekly. We have a very special announcement. Now I'm going to hand this off to Rob, the creator of this account, my co-owner, my best friend, my brother. Rob, what's the special announcement? What's going on?
Well, geez, when you put it like that, it's tough to follow that up. But so we're super excited. Justin and I have been talking back and forth, trying to find ways to expand and branch off and to become something a little bit bigger. Obviously, we love what we have going on here, but we think that, we're very small compared to where we want to get. And one of those, baby steps in getting a little bit bigger and growing is branching out and covering all 4 Boston sports teams. First one, obviously, Boston Red Sox. That's where David comes into play. So essentially, we're no longer technically the Celtics Talk Weekly. We are now Boston Sports Media Live, BSML. We are the BSML Celtics. And David will be running the BSML Red Sox, where we will have full series coverages on their YouTube channel. We're super excited about it. David's going to get a great crew, just like over here for the Celtics, but it's the Red Sox aspect. You might see a couple of us, stop by throughout the course of the season, for those post games, for their podcasts. We're super excited. This is the first expansion of the 4 teams. Obviously, we hope to have the Patriots set up by next season. The Bruins, we'll hopefully get that by next year. Still a lot to go through. We're super excited, though. David, that's our guy down there. David, give us a little something that you got, in store. What should we expect out of this Red Sox coverage crew?
Well, first, I want to say thanks for essentially giving me the keys to do the Red Sox. I feel like a kid that just got his license and his parents are giving him the keys to the car. So thank you for that. But basically, a little teaser. I mean, you guys pretty much talked about it a little bit already, but we're going to do recaps of the series. I don't know if I could do 162 recaps, so we're just going to recap every series because I want to keep my sanity. Going to try and put out a YouTube short for how every game went. So like a quick 60-second clip just talking about the games, and then looking to do podcasts every month to recap the Red Sox and how they did in like April of the calendar year in baseball. And then that's it's just, I guess, a little brief teaser of what's about to happen. We're what better day though to announce this than when the Red Sox signed Trevor Story?
Exactly.
You know?
Sir.
And Yeah, no, you go.
Yeah. So we're, like I said, super excited. We just want to thank you guys watching. You guys have been awesome. I mean, we were approaching up on a year, and we're still very small. But it's nice. It's nice to see these little baby steps be a little bit bigger than some baby steps. 2K in less than a year is a step I'm very excited about. Obviously, shout out Seamus and Ian and Justin for me. Definitely can't be here without their huge followings. Because a lot of these fans, they have no idea who Rob is before you guys. So, big thanks to you guys. We're super excited to get this Red Sox stuff going. Should be a good season, like you just said. Trevor Story, best infield in baseball potentially.
Michael Walker,
Yeah, so Red Sox might be rolling. Boston sports trending upwards. Those Pats got to get their stuff together. But Justin, before we close it out, what you got for us?
I'm just really excited. I a few days ago I went back and I listened to our very first podcast episode together, and you had me come on as a guest. You interviewed me for the first half, and then the second half we talked Celtics basketball. I remember Jabari Parker news broke. We were super excited about that. And then right after that, I think we stayed on the phone, Rob. I'm not even over exaggerating. I think we stayed on the phone for the next nearly 2 hours after the podcast episode concluded, and we clicked right away. And by the end of the night, I joined the team, and we announced it on Twitter, Instagram, all that. And ever since then, it's been everlasting and kind of overwhelmed. 2,000 followers in under a year, and I think we're well over that 2,000 mark right now. I think we're almost at 600 subscribers. I can't really see the count right here, but obviously Seamus and Ian, two great guys. I've been able to meet Ian in person multiple times. He's been to my house a few times. We've gone to games a few times. I mean, friendships built on and off camera.
We got to get Seamus down to Boston for a couple.
Yeah, we got to get Seamus down to Boston. I mean,
we all got to go to a game.
I know we have to, but it's been a blessing, and I've known Seamus ever since I'd say Seamus 2016 is when you and I both started covering the team on our individual pages, and I'm just so blessed that we have such a kind of like a powerhouse team. I'd like to think of us like nobody. I've said this since day one. Like no group of teenagers, at least in the Boston sports area, is doing this like we're doing. I mean, we have these guys that are a little bit older than us, whether they're later in college or they're on to their professional careers. But we're doing it different, and I'm really happy. I'm dedicated. You guys are dedicated. David's the one who approached us about this whole Red Sox thing, and we absolutely loved it. I tell everybody, Rob and I both tell everybody who comes in and works for us, we're never going to turn down extra content. We love content. You, the people, love the content. And I'm extremely grateful for you guys, and you guys at home as well.
We're not losing. Yeah. Hey, there we go. Hey, we'll take that.
That's good.
But
Jay Rich just dropped 25 on the Warriors.
Yeah, well, that's what Jay Rich does. I mean, Derek White struggling on this road trip. Hopefully he comes back to Boston and he's better. But really quick, guys, any final words? Any of you for?
I mean, I'm excited to see what the Celtics are doing, and I'm excited to see what how you do with the Red Sox thing, David.
I lag right now.
Oh no, we're not doing this again, Seamus. Oh no. Go ahead, Seamus. Uh-oh.
We got nothing from him.
Yeah, he's lagged. All right, let's take one last look at the box score. The Boston Celtics defeat the Denver Nuggets 124-104 on the road. They take the season series.
25 seconds behind you.
Oh my God, you are talking over me to the max. That was 25 seconds ago. They sweep the season series against the Denver Nuggets. They're 3-0 on the West Coast road trip. They take on the Oklahoma City Thunder tomorrow night, Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern time tip-off. We'll have you covered for Celtics Postgame Live. I'm your host, Justin Lowe. That's Robbie Haytain. That's Seamus Arlingo. That's Ian Angelo. And that is CTW David. Take care, everybody. We will see you tomorrow night for Celtics.